Welcome everyone to a brand new what if story, which is what if Goku become heir of Zeno-sama. I hope you like it and comment your idea as well. I want next video with your comment. Give also this video also contain a goal which is 100 views and 20 likes. So without wasting any time, let's begin the story.
Chapter 1. Daishinkin, come here. I have had a revelation, said the childlike Omni King, whose name is Grand Zeno. The Grand Priest approached him and said, "What is it, Lord Zeno?" "In the 7th universe there is a mortal that has just been born. His name is Kakarot. He is a Saiyan, but he has a pure heart. I want you to go visit him and check out his life through your staff. Report back to me and show me what you have found," Zeno ordered. "Why not do it here?" Daishinkin asked. Zeno smiled and said, "It's a hunch, but trust me." The Grand Priest thought about it and responded, "Well, I've never seen a wrong hunch from you. I'll head out at once." Zeno simply nodded his head. Meanwhile, in Universe 7 on planet Vegeta, Beerus had his foot on the king, when all of a sudden he felt a presence heading towards that planet. "Is that what I think it is?" he shouted. "Oh dear, what did you do, Lord Beerus?" His angel attendant mocked him. With a gulp, Beerus took a step back and started to sweat profusely, letting King Vegeta up. The king saw the look on the Universe 7 destroyer and asked, "What's wrong? Who could it be to make you scared?" Before anyone could answer, the Grand Priest arrived in front of them and looked at the three and smiled. "Daishinkin, how may we assist you?" Beerus nervously said as he ran and bowed to the Grand Priest. King Vegeta thought to himself, if Beerus is doing this, I should probably do the same. He also bowed down, even though it was a hit to his pride. "Yes, father, why are you here?" Whis asked. "Grand Zeno has sent me to find a mortal named Kakarot," he said. Beerus looked at King Vegeta and shouted, "Well, you just going to stand there, or are you going to go find him?" "Yes, my lord, but I have some questions. Who is that? What is a Zeno? And why are you so scared?" Whis had a good time with this and started to laugh. Beerus has a tick mark and opens his mouth to reply, but before he could say anything, Daishinkin raised his hand to silence the destroyer and said, "I'll answer that." To put it simply, there are 12 universes at the moment. Beerus is the god of destruction for this universe, Universe 7. Whis, who is my son, is an angel, which is a step above Beerus. I myself am the father of all the angels and is in charge of them. And above me is Grand Zeno, who I attend, who is the Omni King, ruler of all 12 universes. His Majesty has the power to destroy all life and erase all the universes with just the rise of his hand. King Vegeta nodded slowly in understanding of the situation and said, "Follow me." They went and saw a log of newborn babies and found out where to go. They made their way to Bardock and Gine's residence, and the king knocked on the door. They heard some movement, and a moment later, a guy with a scar on his left cheek opened the door and frowned as he recognized the king. Then he said, "What do you want?" Beerus yelled, "Move out of the way or I'll destroy you." The Grand Priest raised his hand to stop Beerus and said, Now we don't know if he will play a pivotal role in this or so." Beerus turned to him and got on his knees and bowed. "Yes, Daishinkin." King Vegeta saw this and thought to himself, I need to get this guy on our side. The Grand Priest turned his head towards him and shook his head. "I won't interfere in mortal affairs. This is a special case." Beerus looked at him and asked him, "What do you mean?" "I don't know exactly, but if any of your actions cause harm to Kakarot, you will be erased." Beerus shivered and said, "Understood, Daishinkin." Bardock, hearing what just took place, asked, "Who are you, and what do you want with my little Kakarot?" Daishinkin explained the whole thing to Bardock as Gine came to his side holding the baby in her arms. After hearing the whole story, they both look at each other and shout simultaneously, "What?" Gine bravely walked towards the Grand Priest and said with a fire in her eyes, "I'll protect my baby any way I can." Bardock came on the other side and said, "Same goes for me." Beerus could not believe what he was seeing. The sheer stupidity of challenging one of the highest ranked beings in all the multiverse. He started walking towards them and put his hand up and started powering up a Hakai. Daishinkin unleashed his power and ordered Beerus to stop. "Stop right there, these three are under protection until I talk with Lord Zeno, and he decides the next course of action. Do I make myself clear now? Let's go inside. I'm going to complete my mission." Beerus powered down in fear and nodded. They all went inside, and the Grand Priest took out his staff and scanned Kakarot's body. King Vegeta asked, "What are you doing with that?" Before anyone could answer, a screen appeared on the other side of the staff and started playing Kakarot's life until the end of Moro. The adult Saiyans stood there in shock for a few minutes. They could feel his future power pressure and couldn't believe a low-class warrior could achieve such a feat. Then they were also confused that when his hair and aura went red and blue, they couldn't feel anything but could tell he was stronger. Beerus' mouth hit the floor and said, "That was divine energy, and it went further beyond to something even more, but it can't be." Daishinkin got a big smile on his face and said, "Well, it'll be. I understand why Zeno wanted me to come to this universe and oversee this personally." He looked at Beerus and Whis and said the words that gave them the chills, "Autonomous Ultra Instinct," and looks like he even managed to master it. "What? That's not possible. Even the gods can't do it," exclaimed Beerus. The Saiyans looked at each other with the same confused expression, and said simultaneously, "What's Ultra Instinct?" Daishinkin looked at them with a smile and stated, "It is a technique that even the gods of the highest levels have difficulty using. Simply it gives you the ability for your body to move on its own, without thinking, and with it you can." All three Saiyans gulped, and Bardock and Gine looked at their son in amazement, and Bardock said, "My son is going to grow up to be the ultimate warrior." While Gine said, "He will be amazing. I'm so proud of you, Kakarot." The Grand Priest stated, "His name will actually be Goku. He gets sent to a planet called the Earth, where he hits his head and loses his memories." Bardock asks, "Why does he get sent there?" Daishinkin states, "You will figure that out. Frieza plans on destroying this planet, so you still have a ship and send him there so he will survive. Then not long after, Frieza blows up the planet and wipes out most of the Saiyan race?" King Vegeta asks, "Is there any way to stop this fate?" "No," was the Grand Priest's quick answer. He waved his staff and said, "I have deactivated the Scouter's transponders. There's magical orbs called Dragon Balls that can grant wishes. If my hunch is right, I'll wish you guys back with your planet." Bardock and Gine nervously asked, "You said we are under protection. What does that mean, and what's going to happen to us in Kakarot?" The Grand Priest calls Whis over and says, "Whis is the strongest angel. I don't know exactly what Lord Zeno has planned, but I'm going to have him train you two. He can make you stronger than you ever thought possible." Bardock asked in astonishment, "You mean the legendary Super Saiyan?" King Vegeta perked his head up as the Grand Priest stated, "You will be embarrassed when you look back and remember that's what you were shooting for. The red hair and the blue hair that he displayed are transformations way beyond that. They pretty much turn you into honorary deities." King Vegeta asked, "What about my son? What happens to him?" Daishinkin smiles and says, "He's right outside the door. Bring him in." After Prince Vegeta comes in, Daishinkin uses his staff to scan Vegeta, and they see his future, and they are impressed with what they see. He then looks the boy in the eyes and says, "Prince Vegeta, there might be a special position for you in the future." "Well, I must take my leave and go back now, I'm afraid," Daishinkin stated. "Wait," King Vegeta exclaimed. "Can you make me and my son forget what we have learned today until the perfect time?" "I got it, father," Whis stated as he touched the father and son duo on the forehead, locking away their memories. "Vegeta will remember as soon as Raditz brings up his brother, and King Vegeta as soon as they are revived and brought back." "Very well, off I go," said Daishinkin as he headed back to Zeno's world. Gine asked if they personally could take his son to Earth and drop him off to his new guardian. Whis nodded, and off they went. Not too long later, they arrived at their destination. When they sit down, they arrived on Mount Paozu, where they saw an old man with a kind face cooking a huge fish over a fire. The old man noticed the aliens' arrival, and waved as he walked towards the group and said, "Hi, I'm Gohan, nice to meet you. You guys hungry by any chance?" They looked at each other and said, "Sure, we could use a bite to eat." "Good," the man now named Gohan said, "Follow me, this fish is almost done." The scent caught their attention and they followed behind him. "What's your guys' names?" Gohan inquired. Whis telepathically told all of them to not mention Beerus and myself being deities. This planet isn't ready for that yet. "I'm Beerus, and this is Whis." "I'm Bardock, and this is Gine and Goku. Nice to meet you," they said. "What are you guys doing here? You don't look like you're from this planet, if I may inquire," Gohan asked. The group looked at each other and nodded. "My son Goku needs a place to stay. Me, Jin and Goku are a race called Saiyan. We fled a planet that's marked for destruction by an evil tyrant. This planet is unheard of, so we picked it to keep our son safe. We in the meantime will be training to get strong enough to put a stop to his rule." Gohan nodded in understanding and said, "I'll take care of him so you can train." Meanwhile, in Zeno's world, Daishinkin has returned and went to the Omni King and said, "You were right, I'm impressed." Then his staff started to play Goku's life. Zeno was even more impressed and said, "I've been the Omni King for 3 billion years and not once have I seen a mortal this good." "So what's your plan?" the Grand Priest asked. "Well, I've come to the point that I want to be done, and I want to retire, and I'm going to have Goku as my successor." "Yes, Lord Zeno, I do have a question. What about his family and friends that he will have? They are what end up shaping him into the man that he becomes," Daishinkin inquired. "It's simple, they will ascend into deities. We will have an Omni King and Queen, and the 2 princes. This is my decree," Grand Zeno announced. "Yes, Lord Zeno. I will begin his training when he turns 5, and we will summon the angels and Beerus since he already knows what's going on to let them know." Time skip. 2 years have passed since the destruction of planet Vegeta. "It's time to go get the new Omni King," Grand Zeno said. "Also bring his parents and his current guardian. Summon the angels and gods of destruction and the supreme Kais of each universe." "Will do, my lord. I will have Beerus and Whis bring them," Daishinkin said with a bow. Meanwhile, in Beerus's world, Bardock and Gine were sparring with Whis to see how strong they have become. "I'm amazed how far you two have come from the first day we met. I'm very proud of you two," Whis said while easily dodging and blocking their attacks. "We still can't hit you, but I have to thank you for getting us to this level," Without you, we would be weak, Bardock said as he looked toward Gine, and they both nodded in agreement. Whis's staff started to glow, and they put their sparring on hold for him to answer. The screen showed and Daishinkin appeared on it. Beerus saw this and ran towards and bowed, asking, "How may we help you?" with sweat running down his face. "It is time. Grab those two Saiyans and Goku and his guardian and head over to Zeno's world. The Omni King requires your presence as well as the Supreme Kai," the Grand Priest explained. Whis said, "Right away, Father. It's good to see you." "Whis, contact Supreme Kai and get him over here," Beerus ordered. "Already on it," Whis said.
The Supreme Kai arrived and was explained the situation. He Kai-K'd them to Earth and went to Gohan's house to pick up Goku and his grandpa.
Bardock knocked on the door and waited. He heard a shuffling noise, and a few moments later, the door was open, and they saw Goku and Gohan side by side. He greeted and looked at Goku and said, "This is your dad. I'm guessing he's here to pick you up." Beerus heard this and said, "We're bringing you along also." Gohan looked at him confused and said, "I'm not going to fight that tyrant that can blow up planets." "What is this mortal talking about?" Beerus asked. Whis explained the situation they actually were in, and what's actually going on, and then the Supreme Kai teleported the group to Zeno's world. The Grand Priest opened the door and said, "Welcome. Follow me, I'll take you to Lord Zeno." Author note: I'm still working on Second Chance, but this popped up in my head and wouldn't leave me alone until I started it. Chapter 2. The group kept walking, and after a minute they got to the Omni King's chambers. As soon as they saw Grand Zeno, Beerus ran towards him and bowed, and said, "Lord Zeno, we have done what you have asked of us, and brought Goku and his family along with the Supreme Kai." Lord Zeno responded, "That's very good. The reason why I called you here is I'm looking for my replacement, and Goku is going to be that replacement." "What?" Beerus screeched. "Quiet," Zeno ordered with a frown. Beerus nodded and shut his mouth right up. Gine stepped forward with a somber face and asked with her voice cracking, "Does that mean that we will never see you again?" Daishinkin smiled a comforting smile and said, "On the contrary, you guys will be ascended to godhood. You will be right under me in authority. When I used my staff a couple of years ago, I saw that his friends and family are the ones that made him who he is." Beerus cringed upon hearing this. The Grand Priest looked at Gohan. "I have to thank you for taking care of him. He is the most important being in the multiverse now. I hope you continue to watch over him. Lord Zeno has decided to let him have a semi-normal childhood. I will train him off and on, but he's also going to have a chance to have the relationships that he is supposed to have. As for you, you're going to be granted godhood as well, and I'll appoint you guards to protect you." Gohan looked at them in shock and awe, and stated, "I don't know about that, I'm just a nobody. I didn't even know that there was gods until a few hours ago." Bardock looked at him with a smile and said, "I wouldn't say that. The Grand Priest was able to show Kakarot, or Goku's future, and it was your guidance that started him off on the path that he eventually ended up on." Gohan started to have tears in his eyes, and thanked the Saiyan for his words of affirmation before asking, "Where am I going to live?" Daishinkin chuckled and said, "You are more than welcome to stay on Earth when Goku becomes the full-fledged Omni King. But with so many people that are going to ascend to godhood, it's probably best that we create a new planet for you guys to come and go, as you please." Gohan nodded his head and bowed appreciatively and said, "I have one question. I've grown up training in martial arts all my life. Do you think that I could get some special training? I've seen these guys?" he asked, pointing at Bardock, Gine, Beerus and Whis. "I've seen them fly around, and I guess I want to be able to do that also." Daishinkin looks at him with a puzzled face, and then started to laugh. "You could ask for pretty much anything, and you ask for this." He then turned his attention to Bardock and said, "You chose well for the guardian of your son. We could use more like him." He turned his attention back to Gohan and said, "Of course, and if you want to get stronger, that can be arranged as well." He turned his attention to everyone present and put out his staff and changed Goku's clothes and said, "We must go there. The gods are waiting for us on the other side." They were teleported in front of the Omni King's throne, and Beerus, Whis and Shin took up their positions for the Universe 7 representatives. As soon as they saw the Omni King and the Grand Priest, the whispers stopped immediately, followed by them bowing in respect. Daishinkin started by saying, "Rise, fellow deities. Grand Zeno has found his replacement." There were a few gasps of shock. The Grand Priest continued by saying, "This is Goku. He will become the new king of everything, and we have Bardock, his father. Here is Gine, his mother, and last but not least we have Gohan, his guardian. They will all be ascended into godhood, and their authority is right under mine." With a straight, serious face he asked, "Do I make myself clear? A few of you might have some worries, and that is understandable. I can assure you I've seen the future, and the multiverse is in good hands." Daishinkin took out his staff and touched Bardock, Gine and Gohan with it, and they became gods. "Now I would like to introduce to you Lord Bardock, Lady Gine, and Lord Gohan. And with that, this concludes this meeting. Thank you all for coming." With that, all the gods and angels present bowed and went their separate ways. All except the Universe 7 representatives, who went up and bowed before the 3 adults. Gohan looked at them and said, There's no need to do that for me. Bardock and Gine agreed with this and said simultaneously, same goes for us. Beerus, Whis and Shin looked at each other and turned back to the three and said, as you wish, my lords. Shin came over to Gohan and said, I can teach you how to fly and a few other things if you want. It might not be a bad idea to teach Lord Goku how to fly also. He turned to Daishinkin and asked, when do you plan to start his training? Will it be okay to teach him how to fly along with his guardian? Gohan interrupted and said, sorry to intrude, but I think of this boy as my grandson. Can you call me Grandpa Gohan? He ended it with a bow. The Grand Priest smiled and said, of course, if that is what you wish, so it shall be. Then he turned to the Supreme Kai and said, I'll start it when Lord Goku turns 6. You may teach them to fly and even teach Grandpa Gohan to Kai. Shin bowed and said, that makes sense, I'll do it. He turned to Grandpa Gohan and said, are you ready to begin your training? Gohan thought about it for a few moments and asked, is it okay for me to bring a couple of people to train also? Shin, in a surprised reaction, said, why you asking me? You have more authority than Beerus. I just asked to make sure it's someone that you trust completely. Seeing your personality, I'm not too worried about it though. Beerus cringed upon hearing this while Whis simply laughed at his expense. Daishinkin butted in. May I ask the names of the people in question? Gohan turned and bowed and said, Master Roshi, my master in martial arts growing up. Also a man named Ox King. He was my childhood friend and rival. He will probably bring his daughter along. Her name is Chi-Chi, I believe. The Grand Priest smiled and said, you know you don't have to bow every time you address us. Of course they can join in. That is actually perfect. When I first met Goku, I have the ability to look at someone's life, and Roshi would end up training Goku when he is young, and also Chi-Chi is the one that Lord Goku is destined to marry and have a family with. Gohan nodded in understanding and turned towards the Supreme Kai and said, well, looks like we better head to Earth first, before going to your planet to train. Shin nodded and was about to teleport to Earth with Grandpa Gohan and Goku, but the Daishinkin said, wait. They turned and looked at the Grand Priest as he waved Bardock and Gine over. Before you guys disperse, you guys will be appointed guards to protect you and do your bidding. With that, Goku, Gohan, the two guards, and the Grand Priest made their way and teleported right onto Master Roshi's island, and Gohan knocked on the door and heard a comment. They all walked in and Gohan said, hello my master, it's been a while, hasn't it? Roshi looked at the group confused and looked closer at Gohan and asked, Gohan, is that you? What happened to you? Gohan chuckled and replied, of course it is Master Roshi, and what do you mean what happened to me? Roshi grabbed a nearby hand mirror and said, look, you look about 50 years younger. Gohan looked at Shin and asked, is this normal with that? Shin nodded his head. Gohan turned back to his master and said with a big grin, well, that's kind of a long story. He explained everything that he recently learned, and everything that had recently transpired that day, leaving Roshi speechless for a few moments. After a few moments of silence, Master Roshi inquired and asked, does that mean I have to bow before you every time we meet? Gohan began to chuckle and shook his head saying, no, master, you are my mentor and friend. I don't want you to treat me in any way different than before. Since you trained me, I thought about returning the favor. Roshi raised an eyebrow and asked him, what do you mean? Gohan smirked and said, my plan is to get you, the Ox King and his daughter, to come to the Supreme Kai's planet, and with me and train under him. We will learn how to fly, and more. That's if you decide to come along and join us. Roshi thought about it for a bit and said, I can't pass this up. It's the opportunity of a lifetime. Let's go get that old ox. Gohan smiled upon hearing this. He turned his attention to the Supreme Kai and said, take us to Fire Mountain so we can pick up our other guests. Shin smiled and nodded. Then he teleported them all to Fire Mountain, where they ended up meeting the Ox King and Chi-Chi. Ox King saw the group and charged towards the group, thinking that they were bandits trying to steal his treasure, and exclaimed, stop, you thieves, I won't let you anywhere near my treasure. The guard, seeing this, went into action and stopped the axe with one finger. Roshi spoke up saying, what are you doing, you old ox? I thought I taught you better. Hearing this, Ox King recognized the voice instantly and stopped his attack and came to his senses, bowing towards his old master. I'm sorry, Master Roshi, I have failed your teachings. Gohan waved off the guards and said, old friend, I got a proposition for you. Ox King looked up and couldn't believe his eyes and then asked, Gohan, is that you? What happened? You look 50 years younger. He then proceeded to explain everything, and the Ox King couldn't believe it. He asked if he had to bow to him now. Gohan smiled and said the exact same thing as he did to Roshi. He then went on asking, would you like to train with me and Roshi and some gods? The Ox King thought about it and inquired, can I bring Chi-Chi along? I think it would be good for her. Gohan said, of course, the more the merrier. Ox King says, before we go, is there any way to turn off this fire? I would like to be able to visit my castle again someday. The Supreme Kai nodded and used his crystal ball to see the actual problem. He then teleported under the mountain and turned off the fire. Gohan said, that should about do it. Let's head to your world now and begin our training. Shin nodded and gathered up everyone and teleported to the sacred world of the Kais. Kibito saw the arrivals and asked the Supreme Kai, "What's with all the mortals stepping foot on this sacred place?" Before Shin could respond, Whis, Beerus, Bardock and Gine all arrived, and Kibito bowed to Lord Beerus and asked, "Why are you bringing mortals also to this world?" Whis spoke up, "Allow me to explain that little boy. His name is Lord Goku. He is going to be Grand Zeno's successor as the Omni King. Those two adult Saiyans are his birth parents, and they have been ascended into godhood. That man with the cap on his head is Goku's guardian. Lord Gohan has also been ascended into godhood. They all have more authority than Lord Beerus. And the three others are Gohan's guests, I believe." Shin saw the extra people and asked what they were doing. Bardock stepped forward and said, "Whis said that it would be good for me and Gene to come learn how to do that teleport thing you do." Shin and Kibito nodded, and thus began everyone's training. Author note: had the story written out a few chapters, just kept getting sidetracked. I am also about to post a new chapter on Second Chance. Chapter 3. 1 year has passed since the announcement of Lord Goku and his family. Daishinkin has started Goku's training, and they have been progressing. We have come to the day before Bulma shows up. We have Grandpa Gohan and Lord Goku taking a break from training and just having a normal life for a bit. That fateful day has arrived. Goku was out fishing and on his way back to Grandpa Gohan. He heard a vehicle coming towards him. He levitated high enough off the ground to miss getting hit by the car. It still managed to crash in the confusion. Goku flew over to it and looked inside and saw a girl and asked in an innocent tone, "Are you okay?" That looked painful. Bulma, not knowing what's going on, was scared and stood up with her gun pointed at the king and said, "Back away, you have some weird powers." Goku took a step forward and the gun went off. Before the bullet was able to hit him, his guard appeared out of nowhere and caught the bullet. Bulma, seeing this, ducked down into the wrecked car and said while shaking in fear, "Please don't hurt me." Goku chuckled at her reaction and said, "Don't worry, I'm not here to hurt you. I'm just trying to make sure you are not injured in any way." Bulma slowly rose back up and inquired nervously, "Who are you? Who is this guy? How are you both flying? What else can you do?" Goku chuckled and stated, "It's a long story, and I'm not sure if you would believe me. But are you hungry? My grandpa is going to cook this fish up if you want some lunch. By the way, what are you doing all the way out here, if you don't mind me asking?" Bulma studied him for a minute and saw that there was no deception in his eyes and then spoke. "Sure, I could use a bite? Well, I'm here looking for these small little orbs that are orange and have stars on them called Dragon Balls." Goku nodded in understanding and asked, "So what are you going to wish for? It better not be for something evil," he said in a serious tone. Bulma shuddered and said, "No, not at all. I just want to get a boyfriend." Goku telepathically talked to the Grand Priest asking, "Is there a blue-haired girl named Bulma that I need to worry about from the future that you saw?" Daishinkin recalled his future and responded, "No, my lord. In all actuality, she will become one of your greatest allies as your adventure unfolds." Goku looked at Bulma and said, "Well, that's a stupid wish, but I'm willing to accompany you and help you out." They got to his house and picked up the 4-star ball and said, "Here you go, the 4-star Dragon Ball." The story continues as normal until they get to Fire Mountain. They got the Dragon Ball and went on their way. They get caught and end up in the room in the castle along with Yamcha and Puar. Bulma put her face in her hands, asked, "What are we going to do? We are trapped." She then started to sob. Goku started to think, "I could easily blast through this, but it might hurt the others. I could teleport, but I don't know how to do multiple people yet. I'll just have my guards get us out of here." A moment later, his guards phased through the floor right in front of them. Bulma was kind of used to this but still jumped. Yamcha, Puar and Oolong didn't know how to react and all shouted, "Who are you two? You just phased through the floor, that's impossible." The guards ignored this and went towards Goku. When they arrived, they simultaneously asked, "How may we serve you, Lord Goku?" Everyone else in the room looked at Goku and spoke, "Ho, ho! What do you mean, Lord? Are you some kind of royalty or something?" Goku just put on a grin and answered, "Something like that, but don't worry about it." Everyone's sweat dropped, including the guards. Goku turned to his guards and gave them an order. "Get us out of here and stop them. They are up to no good." The guards nodded and phased everyone out of the room, then appeared in front of Shenron and ordered him, saying, "Do not fulfill any wish made by these three. Goku has decreed it." The Pilaf gang were confused on who Goku is and how he was able to stop their quest to rule the world. The Eternal Dragon started to shake uncontrollably and uttered, "Goku! You mean Lord Goku, the Omni King, the ruler of all the multiverse, that Goku!" The Pilaf gang went pale after hearing this, including Goku's new friends who went silent in shock after hearing the revelation. Goku flew up and said, "Yes, that is me." Shenron went down as much as he could to bow and said in a nervous voice, "Lord Goku, it is an honor to meet you and be in your presence." Goku chuckled and said with a smile on his face, "Relax. There is no reason to be scared of me. I do have a new rule for you, though. If anyone comes to you and tries to wish for an evil wish or an impure wish, deny them." Shenron looked at him and said, "It shall be done, my lord." The next second he disappeared, and the Dragon Balls dispersed. Bulma and Yamcha whined. Now I won't get a boyfriend, said Bulma. Now I won't get a girlfriend, Yamcha said simultaneously. They both looked at each other and laughed. Goku looked at them and said, Good, I guess they figured it out. They overheard this and got nervous, remembering what they heard not too long ago. Who are you exactly? Bulma inquired. What did the dragon mean by Omni King and the King of Multiverse? Yamcha inquired. Goku was silent for a few moments and said, Well, I guess you guys would have figured it out at some point. I was hoping it would be later when I would have confessed. Goku then started to explain everything from the beginning when he was a baby, and at the end he said, I don't want you to treat me any different. You guys are my first real friends. They looked at each other and nodded in agreement. Bulma came up to him and asked, So now that we have went through this adventure, what do you plan on doing now? Goku thought about it for a while and said, Well, I could go back home, but I think I'm going to train under Master Roshi and maybe compete in the World Martial Arts Tournament. Yamcha smiled and retorted with his hand out, saying, Oh yeah, I'll admit you are stronger than me now, but I will surpass you and beat you in the tournament. Goku with a smirk took his hand and shook it and said, A challenge, huh? Well, you're on. I'll see you in the tournament. After that, they went their separate ways, and Goku started to fly towards Master Roshi's island. He arrived and landed and knocked on the door, exclaiming, Master Roshi, I'm here. Roshi recognized the voice instantly and ran to the door and opened it. He was surprised to see the young Saiyan. He said, Lord Goku, you know that you don't have to knock. You're in charge of the multiverse after all. Is your grandpa here with you? No, but I can have him come if you want. I want you to train me as I want to participate in the World Martial Arts Tournament that's coming up. Goku replied. Roshi with a shocked face thought about it and said, But you're the strongest person in this planet. What would I have to teach you that Daishinkin already hasn't? Goku thought about it for a bit and said, Well, when I grow up and ascend to the throne, I want you to be the multiverse teacher for beginners. You will be ascended into godhood as well, just like my grandpa. Daishinkin also said I should train under more than one master and incorporate multiple teachings. Roshi thought about it and said with a bow, Yes, my lord. Goku responded, Another thing, when I'm here training, I'm here as a student, not a king. Don't call me Lord Goku until the tournament is over. Roshi nodded his head and said, All right, as you wish. I'm just curious on who are you going to invite to the tournament to come watch you compete? Goku smiled and said, My parents, Beerus, Whis, Shin, Kibito, Daishinkin, and of course Grand Zeno. Roshi's sweat dropped and said, Well, that will be an interesting crowd to say the least. How will you make it interesting where you're not just having one shot with every opponent? Goku stated, Good question. I'll have Daishinkin lock up most of my power so I can have a challenge when we begin our training. I'll get it back after the tournament. Roshi, impressed, said, You will do anything to get better, won't you? Goku chuckled and gave a peace sign while grinning. A few moments later, they felt a presence nearby. Goku looked at the sea and asked, Are you expecting company? Some bald kid is on his way here. Roshi shook his head and said, No, I don't believe so. I wasn't even expecting you, to be honest. Goku telepathically contacted the Grand Priest and said, Is there a short bald guy in my future, one with no nose? The Grand Priest responded, Yes, he ends up becoming your best friend. Goku thought, My best friend, huh? Well, thanks, Daishinkin. Daishinkin replied, No problem. Anything else? Goku said, I need you to lock away most of my power. I'm going to start training and take part of a tournament here on Earth. I'm going to have you guys come and watch. Daishinkin chuckled and said, It should be interesting to watch. The boy arrived at the island and said, Hi, I'm Krillin. Are you Master Roshi by any chance? Roshi nodded his head and said, Indeed I am. What do you want? Krillin replied, I have traveled far and wide to become your student, master. Would you please train me? So, like the story goes, they bring Launch to stay with them. Launch sneezes and pulls out her guns and tries to shoot them. Before the bullets reached them, Goku's guards phased through the floor and stopped right in front of him, stopping the bullets. Krillin and Launch at the same time shouted, Who are they and how did they do that? One of the guards said, We are the protectors of the future Omni King. Know your place. Goku lifted his hand, stopping them, and said, It's all right, I got it. Thank you, though. They turned to the side and nodded, saying, As you wish, Lord Goku. Krillin and Launch's jaw dropped in amazement from this. Krillin came up to him and asked, Do we have to bow down, call you Lord Goku each time we see each other? Goku chuckled and shook his head, saying, Not at all, in fact, you're going to be my best friend. Krillin thought to himself for a moment and then stated, Best friends with the ruler of everything, huh? I could get used to that. And from this time on, Goku and Krillin became friends and rivals. Time skipped to the day before the tournament. Krillin has now mastered flying. They were getting ready to leave. Roshi asked, Launch, are you sure you don't want to come with us? It should be a great show. Launch shook her head and said, Nah, I don't really do well in crowds because of my condition. And also to go flying without a vehicle seems scary to me. Krillin put his hand on her shoulder and said, I understand the crowds thing. But flying in the air isn't scary for very long. I could teach if you want after the tournament.
Goku butted in. Besides the god of destruction, his angel, the supreme Kai, the grand priest, and the present Omni King are going to be in attendance watching.
It didn't take Lunch long to answer, saying, do you really think it would be a good idea for me to have an episode in front of all those important people that can easily destroy this world or universe? Roshi and Krillin at the same time said, you're right. It's best for you to stay here. With that, the three took off, flying towards Papaya Island. Author note: Chapter 3 completed. Should be posting the next chapter of Second Chance soon. Leave a review if you would like.
Thanks you so much for watching everyone my what if story, which is what if Goku was become heir of Zeno-sama. This is the end of this story. I hope of you like the video, and also I hope you complete this goal as well, which is 100 views and 20 likes. I hope you complete the goal and comment your ideas as we will meet in next video.